This next panel, it's extremely important for us. So, the name of the panel, it's Creating Brands Consumer Wants. Who wants? Your ladies in this array. Take your seat. We have plenty of time to socialize. We have to keep this moving. And so, these ladies coming up, they're gonna tell us how to make our brands desirable. And that's what we all want as entrepreneurs. So let me introduce you to the moderator. Her name is Camila Strashnoi. She's the brand consultant, educator, and public speaker. And the speakers are Bianca Gates, CEO and co-founder of Birdies, and Lisa Sadogi, founder of Lele Sadogi. Please give them a welcome and a big round of applause. Have fun, ladies.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel. I'm very excited to be here back at Latin American Fashion Summit one more year, and with these ladies that I deeply admire. So I would love if we could see a video so you get an introduction of what they do, and then I'll give you a brief intro of what we're going to be talking about today.
Lele Sadogi is a one-stop shop for all accessories. We design things to make you happy, to make you feel good. And when you look good, you feel good. The person that walks into a Lele Sadogi store is not a wallflower. She appreciates detail, she appreciates quality, and she wants something that's special and innovative. From headbands to jewelry to glasses to collars to socks to handbags, belts, and many other categories, and this is just the start. It's all about expressing yourself, showing your joy through color and maximal style. And we define that in quality and decoration. My biggest motivation is to bring joy to our customers. And I'm so excited to show you the next chapter.
Start those presses rolling.
Meet Birdies,
Hi.
your new favorite shoe brand. It all started with one loafer, the Starling. Yep, it's heavenly.
We created gorgeous spots for everywhere.
For inside
And outside.
So soft and flexible that are just as comfortable as your favorite slippers. Handmade, no break-in required.
Trust us.
Because with great comfort comes great possibilities.
We have a liftoff.
So let's get into this exciting world. I believe a lot of us here, a lot of brand owners, everyone feels the consumer landscape is changing so fast. And we know that without consumers, we have no brand, and that we used to have this psychographic approach to consumer behavior, but that has changed a lot. We have social networks now, and what those social networks do is that they turn us into community tastes. And that's why I'm so excited to be with Bianca and with Lisa Lily here to discuss about that, because I believe they build, or I know they build brands around niche and around taste niches. So I'm gonna give you a brief intro beyond what we've seen. So Bianca Gates is the co-founder and CEO of Birdies, the company that created a new category of footwear with the stylish flats that are secretly slippers. Ooh, I want a pair of those. Prior to Birdies, Bianca was a sales executive at Meta, where she worked with the retail and gaming executives to help them leverage their data and the social graph to scale their business. Bianca grew up in Southern California, and I've learned backstage that she's also Argentinian like me. So that's her Latin background. Yes, I love that. and Lisa Lily Sadogi, she launched her jewelry collection in 2012 with a tremendously successful category expansion consisting of jeweled headbands. That's what we all started getting to know you for. Those were amazing and still are. Sunglasses, bags, and a home collection. Her bright personality packed designs are maximal, colorful, and feminine. And Lily is now widely recognized for her colorful, embellished headbands, as she's for her jewelry collection. She is now grown into 75 global retailers, including Saks, Neiman, Bergdorf Goodman, Nordstrom, Shopbop, Revolve, Moda, I can keep going. And now added categories that are launching in the coming months, including new handbags and jewel belts and socks. So thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to learn from you. I understand you build companies in different ways. I do understand also that the consumer landscape is changing so much. I work in consumer behavior. I see these shifts. And we were just talking, having this short conversation backstage, that it's so hard to keep track of what's going on. It's constantly shifting. And sometimes I believe that for brand owners, it's hard to look at consumers constantly. And one little golden nugget before we start is that sometimes we need to look at what other industries are doing and our best-in-class competitors, not even in the same product category, because those are going to set our consumer expectations, and those are going to set what consumers will want and need, and those will set what our consumers will expect from our brands. So sometimes we feel like we're in that hamster wheel when we're looking at consumers all the time, and sometimes looking at best-in-class examples will help us understand what consumers want, because at the end of the day, we're the same old humans with the same old human needs and wants, but through technology and innovation, we just address those in new ways. And how are we addressing those today is what we're gonna learn today with them. So my first question for both of us is, how did you start building your brand? And also in terms of target audience, did you start thinking about this psychographic consumer persona, or were you thinking about taste communities? Whoever wants to start.
I'll start. I think it's such a great and important question, especially being here today with all of you, about how did you start your brand? And the piece of advice that I would give is really slow and steady, and being really meaningful and thoughtful about your product or products and how you're going to expand, and really letting the business dictate the brand. So, for me, I had many years experience designing jewelry. Started as that category. Now we have like 15 different categories, and really being thoughtful about how you're going to expand and how you're going to get the exposure. And at the time, 11 years ago, wholesale really led the business. So was able to take, go on the market calendar, show to wholesalers, have the security of purchase orders, and with that expand to also be omni and to have your own website, and really take that financial security from the wholesalers. In addition to using that as a financial security, it's really great exposure. And when you're starting your own brand, to be in stores across the country or even globally, it is a great opportunity for people to acquire customers. So it's not just that you're selling your products to a Neiman's or Saks or Nordstrom, but you're also lucky enough to get advertising and exposure from all different people that are going into those stores. And then once you take your time to acquire and be known and get those customers, then you can do kind of grassroots marketing, whether it's giveaways or collaborations, and even events at the wholesalers, and really using that for press to expand. And that, I think, is the key to get a good basis before you start putting money and funneling into your own ad spend and marketing, is really take advantage of wholesalers and press that can get you a good base.
And can I just double click on that before I want the answer from Bianca, of course, but did you start with that with a clear consumer in mind? Did you build a consumer persona? You have, of course, a very maximalist brand. How was that decision for you, that you're gonna target a niche and stay on that track?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was lucky enough to work for such iconic brands. I was at J. Crew for many years, launched the jewelry there, also worked at Tory Burch. Simultaneously, the first year when we started Lili Sadugi, I was also working, which was another way to provide income too, when you start a brand. And so working at these places, doing a lot of costume jewelry, I realized there was a bit of a void in the market where there's fast fashion, not so much attention to quality. It's more like, let's get my earring, let's get my jewelry, and if it lasts the season, great.
or something that was really elevated and maybe beyond certain price points. And I felt that there was room in the market to have great quality and attainable price points, and that's where my time at J. Crew or Tory Burch, where I felt like there is that girl out there, and that's my girl. Is she is smart enough, she knows quality, she is savvy about price points, she makes her money, she wants to spend it wisely, and really honing in on that person. And she's definitely a maximalist. She doesn't need, you don't need accessories necessarily, you do need shoes, but this is something for the person that really wants to be special and loves fashion and appreciates it.
Oh, thank you for that double click. I think that's very useful for everyone here that's starting in that process. But I know, Bianca, you did kind of a different process. You have a different background. You came from tech. So how was that experience for you? How was that path in building your brand and then defining who your brand was catering to?
Very different than Lili's. I have to say I'm so nervous today because I speak at a lot of conferences. They're predominantly tech conferences, banking conferences, and it's all men, so whatever I say, they nod. And today I'm with a bunch of women who are in the fashion industry, and I'm feeling like a fraud today. But I'm happy to be here. So my path was very different. Growing up as an immigrant of Latino parents from Argentina, and my mom is from Bolivia. They moved here after they were married, and they had me, one of four. And growing up in Southern California, I was determined to make a lot of money. I knew that money mattered, and I wanted people to recognize me because I always felt like I was not recognizable growing up in Southern California as a daughter of immigrants. So as I got older, I realized the money was in tech and in media, and that's where I spent the majority of my career. I spent many years at Univision in New York City, then went to MTV Viacom, met and fell in love with my now husband. He was from San Francisco, moved to San Francisco, and I got my dream job at Facebook. That has been my journey to fashion.
Very unorthodox.
Right, exactly. So my one nagging problem, though, is every time I would entertain friends and family at home, I would kindly ask them to take off their shoes because shoes are dirty when you're outside. And I would notice this moment for many years that women were uncomfortable. It was like that, oh crap moment, my socks have a hole in it, or I don't have a pedicure, or this is like awkward. And me as the host, I felt like there was nothing to complete my outfit when I was welcoming my friends and family at home. So I had this like Mr. Rogers moment, where he like walks in the front door and he sits down on his bench and he takes off his outdoor shoes and he puts on his indoor loafers. And I said, that's what women need. We need social slippers for the entertaining space of the home. And so for years, I was looking on the market to buy these social slippers, never expecting to do it myself. And in 2015, my husband just said, you've been talking about the social slipper problem for a long time. Why don't you just solve the problem? And I was like, yeah, right. So I did what any normal person would do. Put my kids to bed, poured myself a glass of wine, and I Googled how to make shoes. That did not help. But he planted this seed, and I was determined to solve this problem. And so I reached out to my now co-founder, who's the yin to my yang, and I said, let's do this. And so we each invested $50,000, which was a lot of money for us, especially at the time. And I was not willing to give up my day job at Facebook to sell social slippers on the internet, so I kept that job. And we launched Birdies 9 months later. We figured out how to make shoes. They were not great in the beginning. And it took all of our $100,000 to buy the shoes. We had no money left for marketing or advertising. And so we reached out to our network and we said, can you host a pop-up shop at your house with your friends? And we would do this twice a week, 3 times a week for many weeks. And we started to sell, and people loved this idea. So about 6 months later, we thought if we were to give one of these social slippers to a celebrity, who would it be? And that's when we started to create the profile of who Birdie is. Birdie is not millions of women. Birdie is one customer. We serve one customer. We know exactly what she does in the morning, where she vacations, what she drives, what she eats. We service Birdie. And so when we were going through all the celebrities in 2016 and we were going to gift one pair, we went through all these big A-listers and we said, no, that's not Birdie. No, she's not Birdie. No, she's too mean. No, she's not great. And we came down to one person who was not very recognizable at the time, but it was Meghan Markle. And I said, she is Birdie. She is our muse. So we found a way to ship her a pair of Birdies when she was living in Canada. This is in 2016. And she started wearing us all the time. And a few months later, there was speculation that she was dating Prince Harry, and I thought, oh my gosh, can you imagine? And then on Cyber Monday of 2017, they announced their engagement, and the global media went crazy talking about her favorite fashion brands, and her favorite footwear was Birdie's, the slipper fit for a princess. I almost died. And she continued to wear us as the Duchess. And so I share that story as to say, you don't need to spend a lot of money seeding influencers or trying to hire the best PR firm. Just know who your target woman is. Find her, love her, gift her. And if you choose right, she could become the next Meghan Markle.
I absolutely love that Cinderella story. So I believe that was the kind of the landscape 2016, 2017. I do know and notice with data that that's changing a bit, and that it used to be that you'd build a consumer persona like you did with Birdie, that you did with Lily Sardogi, and then they started to change. And my next question is how you stay relevant, right? So consumer preferences are evolving super quickly. So how do you ensure your brand strategies and your product offerings are relevant? Also understanding how to tap into those consumer networks, which are not just the one persona anymore. And how do you do this without diluting your brand's essence? That's $1 million question. I know it's hard, but if you can give us some insight on how you do it.
Yeah, I think it's really important from the start to understand the DNA of your brand. And for me, it's joyful, it's maximal, it's colorful, and I think innovation is the one word, how to stay relevant. And we both do accessories, which are highly trend driven. It's very fast. It's faster than apparel. So you might have something good. You can't rest on your laurels of that. You've got to think about what's the next thing? How can I expand on that? And I've also learned in my years of working for really big companies where there was a planner and there was a person in production and a person doing copywriting, that you have to really have pieces that can fit different markets. So you have your entry price point, you have your middle piece, you have your aspirational piece. And I think that tool of always having your good, better, best is really important, because you keep what people come back for. And I'm lucky that people have come back to Lily Sadughi 1 million times over because they collect the headbands. We do special limited edition pieces that sell out, and they know they have to get it now or they can't get it later. And there's even a really big group together on Facebook, and they talk about things or they trade pieces. So it's really, I think, amazing to keep that innovation and its excitement, and it really fosters a community where people want to talk about it, and there's chatter, and they're really excited. And you just have to constantly have newness, but at the same time, really adhere to your DNA. Like you're saying, you don't want to dilute yourself. We're talking backstage about how if it becomes a minimal world, I will never go there. That is just not who the brand is. The brand is really about the girl who is not a wallflower. She wants to be special. She loves to wake up in the morning. It's exciting for her to put something on that really captures her mood. And so, expanding, and if you know who that girl is, whether she's wearing a headband, sunglasses, bags, belts, shoes, anything, you can still capture her in different products. So that, for me, has been an easy way to expand.
That's so interesting, and I think I want to highlight something you said about multiple niche communities, because I feel, or I'm seeing that that's a very interesting way to go now when growing a brand. It's not just your one girl, your one niche, but when you start knowing that girl in multiple niches at different entry price points, that's something I've seen across the board that's been very successful for brands like yours and yours. So I believe that's very interesting for everyone here to take a first big takeaway, I would say. What has your experience been, Bianca?
Oh my gosh, this has been a journey. So remember, I started with a passion for wanting to make social slippers. That is not what we're doing today. And that was the only thing I cared about. I love creating community and entertaining friends and family at home, and I just wanted to style her down to her feet. But remember our friend Meghan Markle? She wore us a lot, but every time she was photographed wearing us, she was wearing us outside. And so we got thousands of very unhappy customers in the summer of 2017 emailing us complaining that our slippers were disintegrating within a year. And I was like, that's impossible. I wear test my shoes all the time. How are these people wearing their shoes? So we hired an intern that summer, and I said, your job is to email all of our customers and understand how they're wearing their birdies. At the end of the summer, she came back to us and she said, okay, the data shows that over 75% of our customers are wearing them everywhere, not at the home. And I was like, well, there's the problem. We need to have a marketing campaign to educate them on how to wear their birdies. And this intern said, or we can follow the customer outside and create the most stylish slipper-like shoe that she can wear everywhere. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I know about the footwear market? Like, I just want to be slippers. I can't compete with shoes. There's millions of shoes out there. What is our value proposition? Why should she care? But we decided to go for it. And at the time, our domain was birdieslippers.com. And I remember thinking, if we're really going to become a lifestyle footwear brand, we need to remove slippers from the domain. It took me 6 months to find out who owned the domain, birdies.com, because we had launched these slipper shoes, and it was working. So I was like, we need to buy the domain. So anybody here who's looking to buy a domain, it's tough, right? And for some reason, they're all in Miami. All the domain buyers and sellers are in Miami. I met with many of them. And finally, one was able to help us, and the owner was this amazing man in Saudi Arabia, I think. He had bought it for his wife, and if you had gone to birdies.com over the years, you would see 2 female cartoon characters playing golf. And so he said, I don't want to sell it because my wife one day wants to have an apparel company called Birdies. And I said, uh-oh. So I called my trademark attorney. Don't repeat this. And I said, we own Birdies for footwear globally, right? And she said, yes. And I said, do we own it for apparel? She said, no. I said, does anybody own it for apparel? She said, no. I said, great. Starting today, we're going to trademark Birdies for apparel. And we did. And a few weeks later, we went back to the domain owner. And I said, I'm sorry to say that we own it now. So could you sell us the domain? And so ultimately he did. And it was for a lot of money. Don't repeat this. It was in the 6 figures. But it was an investment in our future, knowing that we were not just going to be a slippers company, we were going to be a full-blown footwear company that keeps up with her busy lifestyle. So we've made the pivots, we've followed the customer, but we always say when we're testing our shoes, is this deliciously comfortable enough that you would wear them only at home? And if the answer is yes, we will make it. We want to make her life better. But that said, once COVID hit, we were starting to enter in the outdoor footwear market. Guess what happened? We're like, no, just kidding, we're going back. We're slippers. Remember, we're great for home. We're fashionable for home. And so we did the pivot again, and then coming out of COVID, now we have 1 million beautiful shoes for every day.
Thank you so much. That's a very interesting story. And I'm here with the takeaways because I believe everything is so interesting. And something that Bianca said that I think we should all take with us home is sometimes you have a very clear idea, but sometimes the market gives you a very clear answer. I would love your shoes, but I also want to wear them outside the house. So pivoting and evolving with your consumer is something you should always be doing. You should be tapping into that bandwidth of what do they want, what do they love about my brand, and evolve from there. So we just had 2 amazing lessons in question 1. Another question I have for both of you now is in this macroeconomic landscape we have right now. How does this understanding of your consumer helps you or assists you in planning your merchandising during these times? Can you share some of your best practices with what's happening right now with all the leftover merchandising we had last holiday, what things are looking like for this holiday season? How does knowing your consumer help you, assists you in planning that merchandising and the product range?
That is a big part of what we do. And, I think the first thing is to support yourself with a great team. You have somebody that can focus on strategy. I have Armand in the front row here to help with that too, and just to see the overall plan and the vision. And I think the smartest thing, and I was listening to the panel earlier about buying correctly and buying lean because you don't want to have things left over at the end of the season, but that's just impossible to do, to forecast this. And so really supporting yourself with a good team and a strategy. And, you know, like I said earlier, we go through the fashion market. So we have market, which we're starting this week, you know, showing summer pre-fall. And I'll go show it to all the wholesalers. And then we'll see kind of the climate of how they're buying and add the web. And I have 5 stores as well. So we'll add the orders for the Lili Sadughi brand with the wholesale, buy it together, and then you have kind of that confidence of where the market is headed, because you're also in it together. You're in it with your other wholesalers, and they're looking at the forecasting as well. And usually if you combine the knowledge that you're learning from these, you know, 15 different, over 75 different people that buy our collection, then you kind of have a good idea about the market and what you think is going to be strong. And also because we talked about, you know, very trend driven. So, you know, during the pandemic, and you were talking about slippers, and for me, it was all about the headband. You know, those of you that are on your Zoom and you're not doing your hair, you throw up the headband and you're polished in a pinch. And maybe it's not as important for the jewelry. So there's different trends that are, you know, based on the environment, what's happening, based on the economy, and based on the wholesalers, and I use all of those tools to kind of decide how much we buy. And there is overage, there always is. And one thing that we did is we started these happy hours where maybe we have overage of a few styles, and they could be best-selling styles. Maybe we just bought too many of them. And so every month or so, we'll have a happy hour, and I'll pick 1 or 2 products, and it's more like, you know, at an amazing discount, and it makes the people happy. It keeps people engaged because they're always looking at our brand like, oh, what's she gonna have next? What's something fun that I can get? Maybe I don't need it, but it's a great deal, and the quality's amazing. So it's really keeping everybody at your toes, and nobody wants to be on sale all the time. You know, you wanna buy accurately, and I think I would rather buy it small and sell out and miss a little bit of opportunity than buy it really large and then you're stuck with things and you have to find an outlet.
That's really good advice, I believe, but I mean, everything, it's just such a juggle, right, between all those parts. It's building that puzzle, but I think the last remark you said is the takeaway, so I won't repeat it. I love that part. How about you, Bianca? I know you're starting your first retail relationship just now, and you're starting to go from direct to consumer to starting those wholesale partnerships. So how does that feel for you and your brand?
I don't know. We're doing almost $50 million in revenue now, online only. And so for us, it's, you know, I don't know the wholesale ecosystem at all. So for me, I can find a buyer online through digital marketing and advertising. That to me is the easy part. What's difficult for me is I don't know anybody in the wholesale industry, and they certainly don't know who I am. And I don't know what those buys are like and how much in advance we have to sell. So that's going to be a bit of a dance that we do because we're not on a particular wholesale calendar. But what I would say for the young emerging brands here, and I don't like the word small. I was told always that you're a small brand. No, we are young and emerging, and we are growing. Yeah, don't let anybody tell you you're small. You're growing. You're young. Listen, like, buy what you can afford. Don't overextend yourself, ever. Buy what you can afford. We got to a point where we could only afford a certain amount of shoes. We ended up accumulating a 30,000 person wait list after the Meghan Markle news of her engagement. That day sucked. We missed a huge opportunity. But guess what? For the next several months, we were talking about how we had a 30,000 person wait list. And so put yourself on the wait list so when these shoes come back, you're the first person to get them. And that day we did $500,000 in sales when we sent that email out. So use it to your advantage. Don't overextend yourself. Preserve capital, especially now. We all know the climate, it's only getting worse over the next year. Do not overextend yourself. Increase your margins where you can, because that's what's going to make you guys successful. But go out there and sell out, and then use it as a marketing tool.
That's amazing. Yes. That's amazing, Bianca. And I have a follow-up question for you, particularly with your background in tech. We all feel the tech strategy changes every month, every week. Like, is it TikTok? Is it Instagram? Where do we go to Facebook ads? How, and you are an expert in the direct-to-consumer domain. Well, 50 million, I mean, I'll call you an expert. So, so how do you allocate budget?
It's small when I want to get to $1 billion.
You will, manifesting here. But how do you plan your budget for direct-to-consumer strategies? Is it every month, every quarter? How do you keep, you know, in the zeitgeist? How do you keep yourself in the pulse of where things are going as they shift so quick?
Okay, my best advice here is don't try to do everything. People are like, why aren't you on TikTok? Why aren't you on Instagram? Why aren't you doing Reels? What about Facebook? You know, there's Threads now. I mean, it's crazy. You know, as an emerging brand, do one thing very well. Unless you've mastered one platform, you have no business trying 10 other platforms, because everything you do has to be native to that platform. What works on TikTok is not going to work on Instagram or on Facebook or on Threads or on Twitter. And so you have to, like, now brands have to be like creative houses. The amount of creative that I need to keep up with the demand online is crazy. I can't do it all. So I can do a few things very well. I have not broken the TikTok code. I mean, I think TikTok is working great for a lot of brands. I still struggle to figure out how it works for footwear. I think it's a great platform for certain brands, but pick the 1 or 2 platforms that you yourself understand and can create content for, and do not get distracted with all of the other platforms that you would need to create creative for specifically, because that's going to drown you, and also it's going to bankrupt you.
Thank you for that. And I also believe not every consumer for every brand is in every platform. And sometimes that's when we stretch ourselves too thin and start diluting our brand for trying to cater a platform that's maybe not for us. So that's very interesting. We have a few minutes left, and I would love if you could both share. I admire you both. I admire the businesses you created. I believe everyone in this room wants to one day be here, seated here. So if you'd have any final words, any advice for everyone here that's trying to make it in a very different macroeconomic situation, in a very tough landscape, and it's cyclical. Like, I'm not saying this so you all leave depressed. I'm saying it changes and fluctuates, but right now it's a bit more challenging maybe than a few years ago. So I would love if you could share maybe a little golden nugget to finish and leave everyone even more inspired than I know they already are by listening to you both.
Yeah, I think that there are so many things that you can do before you put forth, and like you were saying earlier, is don't spend the money that you don't have. And there's so many creative ways out there. When we started Lily Sadughi 11 years ago, there was not Instagram. There were not all these opportunities to reach people directly. And now there really is. And you can network, you can reach anybody, and you should really be aggressive in expanding your network and just cold calling, or getting in touch with anybody, whether it's a wholesaler, which will lead you to this person, or go on LinkedIn, and you can really find those connections. And another piece of advice would be, we talked a lot about your digital strategy, but before you start spending on a big PR company or a big ad budget, it is really expensive to acquire a customer. So have that basis where before you plunge into that, make sure that people know who you are. And you can do that in a grassroots way before you have the budget to spend. Whether you do giveaways, it's great alignment with somebody who has a good following. We're actually, coincidentally, our brands have been talking as well about doing some fun things together too, because we have a similar girl. She loves beautiful, pretty things. And so, maybe it's somebody who likes birdies is learning about Lily Sadughi. And I am a big fan of doing a lot of collaborations with other brands. And I think that has been a great way for people to learn about this brand. So there's so many things you can do that don't cost money, like giveaways, like, it doesn't even have to be product-based, but just associating yourself and aligning with different people, working on wholesale, and being very thoughtful about who is your person that you want to give to, who is your influencer, and who is that, rather than spreading yourself thin. Just be really thoughtful because it can be more impactful at the end.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
I think for me to just, I guess, wrap it up, I mean, we have two founders up here with very different backgrounds and very different journeys that have both led us to building successful brands. Take advantage of what you have in front of you. Don't try to look into something that's not comfortable for you or authentic. You all have amazing tools in front of you. Double down on those, leverage those, and be authentic to who you are. And I know that sounds like a load of crap, but like truly, just whatever you have to your disposal and ask people for favors. You will find that most people want to help you, but it's on you to identify who is the right person to ask the right question to, and 9 times out of 10, that person will say yes, and they will help build your company with you.
Thank you so much for that. So I believe with that, we will wrap up this panel. I'll add just a little nugget to what you said, which was amazing. Have a very clear brand DNA and make sure that your product has something special that will make people want to stop by your stand. Look at your line sheet, look at your lookbook. Make sure that you have something that stands out, that you speak to a very clear consumer, that you understand which are the consumer drivers. And as we said with social media, that applies even to product. Your consumer is your consumer. Don't try to, jump into every trend wagon. Keep, authentic to your brand, as you were saying. And if you're a maximalist, stay maximalist, and don't try to dilute your brand and be liked by everyone. I've seen a lot of brands here with a bit of FOMO, like, okay, I'm gonna do the quiet luxury and the maximalist and the print. And stay on your track, define your brand, have a very clear brand communication, brand promise, and I'll assure you that if you insist enough, put the hard work down, sometimes I know it feels like an uphill hill that never stops, but you'll get there. So good luck with your brands. Good luck connecting with your consumers. And
you got this.
Thank you
Let's
so
go.
much.
Let's go, Latinos.